My name is Sarah. I'm 29 years old, and for 16 months I lived the most silent nightmare of my life. 16 months in which every word I didn't say became the greatest victory I could imagine. It all started on a rainy Thursday in October, when I found my husband David kissing his secretary in our company office. Our company. The one we built together during 5 years of marriage, working 16 hours a day, investing every penny we had, dreaming of a future that, at that moment, completely crumbled. David didn't even notice when I walked in. He was so involved with Amanda, a 23-year-old blonde he had hired 6 months earlier, that he didn't hear my footsteps in the hallway. It was only when I dropped my keys on the floor that they separated, startled. David's face turned red, but not from shame. From anger. As if I were the intruder. As if I didn't have the right to be there. "Sarah, this isn't what you're thinking," he said, adjusting his shirt. I remained silent. I simply looked at him, then at Amanda, who couldn't meet my eyes, and left the room without saying a word. That night, David came home as if nothing had happened. He had dinner, watched television, went to bed. I continued in silence. He interpreted my silence as acceptance, as if I were a submissive wife who pretended not to see his betrayals. In the following days, David began to become more relaxed, more careless. He arrived late, left early, sometimes didn't even sleep at home, always with excuses about important meetings, demanding clients, last-minute business trips. I continued in silence. 2 weeks after catching them, David came home with a briefcase full of documents. "Sarah, we need to talk about the company," he said, spreading the papers on the kitchen table. I approached and saw they were contracts, transfers, documents I didn't completely understand, but that seemed important. "Look, our company is growing very fast. We need to restructure some things, better organize the paperwork. I need you to sign some documents." He pointed to several lines marked with a yellow X. "It's just bureaucracy, Sarah. Accountant stuff, you know how it is." I picked up the documents and started reading. David became impatient. "Sarah, they're just formalities. Sign there and let's have dinner. I'm hungry." But I continued reading, and the more I read, the more I realized those weren't bureaucratic documents. They were property transfers, changes in the company's corporate structure, alterations I didn't completely understand, but that would clearly harm me. "David, I'm not going to sign this now. I want our lawyer to review it first." It was the first time I had spoken in 2 weeks. David got irritated. "Sarah, you're being paranoid. We're married, we're partners. Why would I do anything to harm you?" "Because you're cheating with your secretary," I thought. But I said nothing. I just put the documents away. "I'm going to keep this here. Tomorrow I'll take it to Dr. Martinez to review." David tried to argue, but I stood firm. It was the first time in weeks that I made a decision, and it bothered him. Dr. Martinez had been our lawyer for 3 years, a serious man in his 50s who had always been honest with us. The next day I took the documents to him. "Sarah, good to see you. How are things?" "Complicated, doctor. David wants me to sign these documents, but something doesn't seem right to me." Dr. Martinez took the papers and began examining them. As he read, his expression changed. "Sarah, you did very well bringing this here. Very well indeed. Why? What's wrong?" "These documents transfer 80% of the company's ownership to David. If you had signed this, you would only be left with 20% of a company you built together." I felt my stomach sink. But why would he do this? Dr. Martinez looked at me with a paternal expression. "Sarah, may I ask a personal question? How is your marriage going?" I told him everything. The betrayal, the strange behavior, the lies. Dr. Martinez listened in silence. "Sarah, in my experience, when a partner tries to alter company ownership this way, they're usually preparing for a divorce." He wants to ensure he keeps the largest part of the assets. And what do? First, you don't sign anything. Second, you need to prepare yourself. If he's planning a divorce, you should be too. But doctor, I still love my husband, even after everything. Sarah, sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes we need to protect ourselves. I left Dr. Martinez's office with my head spinning. During the drive home, I made a decision. I would continue in silence, but now with a purpose. I would discover exactly what David was planning. In the following weeks, I began paying attention to everything. The calls he made, the places he went, the documents he left scattered around. And the more I observed, the more I discovered that my marriage had been a lie for much longer than I imagined. David wasn't just cheating with Amanda. He was embezzling money from the company, making side deals, hiding profits. And the worst part? He had been doing this for almost 2 years. One day, I found a hidden folder in his home office. Inside, there were contracts from a company I didn't know, bank statements from accounts that weren't ours, and what shocked me most, a lease contract for a luxury apartment downtown in the names of David and Amanda. They had been living together for at least 6 months. I photographed everything with my phone and took it to Dr. Martinez. Sarah, this changes everything, completely. How so? If David is embezzling money from the company to finance an extramarital relationship, that's embezzlement. And if he's using marital assets to support his mistress, that's mismanagement of matrimonial property. And what does that mean? It means that in a divorce, you wouldn't just get 50% of the assets. You could get much more. Dr. Martinez explained that in cases of bad faith, proven infidelity, and embezzlement, the betrayed spouse could receive up to 70% of the couple's assets. But Sarah, you need more evidence, and you need to be very careful. If David suspects you know something, he might hide even more assets. What do you think I should do? Keep doing exactly what you've been doing. Stay silent, keep observing, keep collecting evidence. And when he finally asks for a divorce, because he will, you'll be prepared. I went home with a strange feeling. On one hand, I was devastated to discover the extent of my husband's betrayals. On the other, I felt a determination I didn't know I had in myself. In the following months, I became a silent detective. I installed an app on my phone that automatically recorded conversations. I started photographing important documents. I created a secret online folder where I stored all the evidence. David, believing I was naive and submissive, became increasingly careless. He left documents in plain sight, made important calls near me, even brought Amanda to some company events, introducing her as a very dedicated employee. It was during one of these occasions that I got the most important evidence. David and Amanda were talking on our house's balcony during a client party, and I managed to record their entire conversation. "When are you going to tell her?" Amanda asked. "After the year-end contract signatures. I need to ensure all important assets are in my name before filing for divorce." "What if she suspects something?" "Sarah, she never suspects anything. She's too naive. Always has been. That's why our relationship worked for so long. She trusts me blindly. Don't you feel guilty?" "Guilty? Amanda, business is business. We built this company together, but I was always the brain behind everything. Sarah just executed what I planned. It's fair that I keep the larger part." "And the apartment? When are we going to live together officially?" "As soon as the divorce is finalized. I've already chosen the lawyer, a guy specialized in quick and painless divorces." Painless for whom? I thought, recording every word. The next day, I took the recording to Dr. Martinez. When he finished listening, he was smiling. "Sarah, your husband just handed us the entire divorce case on a silver platter." "How so?" "This recording proves premeditation, bad faith, embezzlement, and also reveals he's already planning to hide assets. With this, we can ask not only for favorable asset division, but also moral damages for infidelity and mismanagement." "Doctor, I have a question. Those documents David wanted me to sign. Yes? If I had signed them, would I really have lost 80% of the company? Dr. Martinez took the original documents and examined them again. Sarah, something interesting happened with these documents. Do you remember you said David was impatient and wanted you to sign quickly? Yes, he said it was just bureaucracy. Well, it seems haste was the enemy of perfection. These documents have a very serious technical flaw. What kind of flaw? The contract wording is ambiguous. Instead of transferring 80% of ownership to David, the way it's written actually transfers 80% of ownership to the other partner. That is, to you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You mean if I sign these documents, you would become the owner of 80% of the company, and David would be left with only 20%. But this can't be right. Dr. Martinez laughed. Sarah, in 30 years of law practice, I've seen many cases of smart people who thought they were smarter than they were. David clearly prepared these documents hastily, probably copied a template from the internet and changed some names, but didn't review it properly. And what do I do with this? For now, nothing. We keep this card up our sleeve. If David really files for divorce and tries to harm us, we have this surprise waiting. The months went by, and I continued in silence, collecting evidence, observing, waiting. David continued pressuring me occasionally to sign the documents, but I always found an excuse to postpone. It was on a Tuesday in March that everything finally happened. David came home earlier than usual and asked to talk. Sarah, we need to talk seriously. He sat in the living room and made that serious expression I knew well. Our marriage hasn't been working for a long time. We both know that. I remained silent. I think it would be better for both of us if we separated. Amicably, civilly. Still silent. I've already talked to a lawyer. We can have a consensual divorce, split everything 50-50, and get on with our lives. He took a folder from his bag. These are the divorce papers. Just sign and we're done. I took the documents and started reading. It was exactly what Dr. Martinez had predicted. David was proposing to keep 70% of the company, the house, the cars, almost everything. David, I'm not going to sign this now. I want my lawyer to review it first. He got irritated. Sarah, you're complicating something that could be simple. We're two adults. We can resolve this between ourselves. No, David. This time I'm going to do things the right way. It was the first time in months I spoke firmly. David noticed something had changed in me. Fine, Sarah. If that's how you want it, then let's do it the legal way. The following week, I received an official summons. David had filed for contentious divorce, asking for the asset division exactly as it was in those documents he wanted me to sign. It was time to fight back. Dr. Martinez and I spent 2 weeks preparing our response. We organized all the evidence: photos of financial documents, recordings of conversations, receipts of expenses with Amanda, everything. Sarah, it's time for you to stop being silent, said Dr. Martinez. It's time for you to fight. The first hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. We arrived at the courthouse early, and I was nervous. It was the first time I would see David since he left home. He arrived accompanied by a young lawyer, appearing confident. Amanda was with him, which made me feel a mixture of anger and pity. Good morning, Your Honor, said David's lawyer. My client is asking for a simple and fair division of the couple's assets. Since there are no children involved, we believe this can be resolved quickly. The judge looked at Dr. Martinez. Dr. Martinez, what is the defendant's position? Your Honor, my client completely contests the plaintiff's request. We have evidence of bad faith, infidelity, embezzlement, and attempted patrimonial fraud. David's lawyer tried to protest, but the judge silenced him. Dr. Martinez, present your evidence. What happened in the next 40 minutes was like watching a movie. Dr. Martinez presented each photo, each recording, each document we had collected over the months. David's expression gradually changed, from confident to worried, from worried to terrified. When Dr. Martinez played the recording of the conversation between David and Amanda on our house's balcony, I saw David turn completely pale. "Your Honor," said Dr. Martinez, "my client was the victim of an elaborate scheme to defraud her of her legitimate rights. We ask not only for fair division of assets, but also reparation for moral damages." The judge called for a recess to analyze the evidence. David tried to approach me in the hallway. "Sarah, you don't understand. I can explain all of this." I looked at him in silence for a few seconds. Then I spoke. "David, for 16 months I remained silent while you lied, cheated, and tried to rob me. Now it's your turn to be silent." When we returned to the courtroom, the judge had a serious expression. Analyzing the evidence presented, it's clear there was bad faith on the plaintiff's part. The attempts at inappropriate patrimonial transfer, expenses with extramarital relationships, and premeditation proven by recordings characterize embezzlement and mismanagement of matrimonial assets. David was visibly nervous. Therefore, I grant the defendant's request. The asset division will be 70% for Mrs. Sarah and 30% for Mr. David. But Dr. Martinez wasn't finished. "Your Honor, there's still a pending matter. The plaintiff tried to make my client sign irregular patrimonial transfer documents. I would like to present them as additional evidence." "You may present them." Dr. Martinez handed over the original documents David wanted me to sign months ago. "Your Honor, these documents contain a serious technical flaw. The ambiguous wording makes it so that, if signed, they would transfer 80% of the company's ownership to my client, not to the plaintiff." The judge examined the documents carefully. "Dr. Martinez, does your client wish these documents to be validated?" Dr. Martinez looked at me. I nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. My client would like to sign these documents now according to the original wording." "But this can't be legal," protested David's lawyer. "The documents were prepared by your own client," replied the judge. "If there's a flaw in the wording, it's the responsibility of whoever prepared them." And so, right there in the courtroom, I signed the documents David had prepared months ago to harm me. Dr. Martinez was smiling when we left the courthouse. "Sarah, you just became the owner of 80% of the company you built together." "Doctor, I still can't believe this really happened." "Believe it, my dear. 16 months of silence were worth more than any speech." 2 months later, I was in my new office, which used to be our office, reviewing company contracts. Amanda had been fired right after the divorce, and David had sold his remaining share of the company to a competitor. I was officially alone at the head of a business that grossed more than $2 million a year. My phone rang. It was a message from David. "Sarah, can we talk? I know I was wrong with you. I know I don't deserve it, but I would like a second chance." I looked at the message for a few seconds. Then I typed my response. "David, for 16 months I remained silent while you destroyed our marriage and tried to destroy my life. Now it's my turn to build something new. And this time, I'm going to do it alone." I deleted his number from my phone and went back to work. 6 months later, the company had grown 40%. I had hired an incredible team, closed important contracts, and finally become the businesswoman I always dreamed of being. Dr. Martinez called me on a Friday afternoon. "Sarah, I have news about David." "What kind of news?" "He's trying to open a new company, but he's having financial difficulties. It seems Amanda left him when she discovered he had lost almost everything in the divorce." "Doctor, can I make a confession?" "Of course." During all these months, I thought I was being cowardly by staying silent. I thought I was being weak, submissive. And now? Now I understand that sometimes silence is the most powerful weapon we have. While David was talking, lying, and showing off, I was observing, learning, preparing. "Sarah, You transformed 16 months of apparent weakness into the greatest demonstration of strength I've ever seen. That night, I had dinner alone in my new apartment, a modern loft I bought just for myself. While admiring the city view, I reflected on everything that had happened. My marriage had ended, and that still hurt. But for the first time in my life, I was completely independent, financially stable, and master of my own destiny. I picked up my phone and called my sister Lisa, who lived in another state. "Lisa, it's me. I have news." "Sarah, how are you? I heard about the divorce. I'm sorry." "Actually, Lisa, don't be sorry. I want to tell you an incredible story." I spent the next hour telling my sister everything: the betrayal, the silence, the evidence, the trial, the victory. "Sarah, I can't believe you managed all of this alone." "Lisa, I learned something important. Sometimes the best response is not to respond. Sometimes the best action is not to act. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any word." "And David? How is he?" "David learned that underestimating a silent woman can be the most expensive mistake in a man's life. Today, 3 years later, my company is one of the most respected in the industry. I have a team of 20 employees, offices in 2 cities, and a contract schedule that guarantees me stability for the next 5 years. Sometimes I run into David on the street or at industry events. He always tries to greet me, sometimes even tries to start a conversation. I'm always polite, but distant. The last time I saw him, he was with a younger woman, apparently his new girlfriend. He seemed to have aged a lot in these 3 years. "Sarah," he said to me, "you look good. The company is doing very well, from what I hear." "Thank you, David. You know, sometimes I think about how things could have been different if—" "David," I interrupted him. "Things are exactly as they should be." He was silent for a few seconds. "You've changed a lot, Sarah." "No, David, I haven't changed. I simply stopped pretending to be who you wanted me to be." I walked toward my car, a BMW I bought last year, and before getting in, I turned to him one last time. "David, thank you." "Thank you for what?" "For teaching me that sometimes the greatest gift someone can give us is showing us who we really are when no one is looking." I got in the car and drove away, leaving David standing on the sidewalk. While driving home, I thought about how my life had completely changed. From a betrayed and silent wife, I had become a successful and independent businesswoman. But most importantly, I learned that silence is not a sign of weakness. Sometimes silence is a sign of intelligence. It's a sign of patience. It's a sign of planning. My silence during those 16 months wasn't cowardice. It was strategy. And it was the best strategy of my life. Today, when someone asks me what the secret was to overcoming one of the worst moments of my life and transforming it into my greatest victory, I always give the same answer. I learned that sometimes the most dangerous person in a room is the one who is silent. Because while everyone is talking, she is listening. While everyone is showing off, she is observing. And when it's time to act, she knows exactly what to do. David underestimated my silence. He thought it meant submission, acceptance, weakness. He discovered too late that my silence meant preparation. And that preparation gave me not only victory in the divorce, but gave me something much more valuable. It gave me my own life back. A life in which I finally learned to use my voice when necessary, and my silence when strategic. A life in which I am finally completely in control of myself.